All right. Welcome back to day three. So today, let's talk about the control flow. Okay, the if, the else, the switch statements. Normally, programs run from top to bottom. All right. If there's no control flow, the normal thing is that it runs from top to bottom. But you can actually control the flow of the execution of the program. So that is what we'll be talking about in this class, how to control the flow of execution of your program. So we'll be talking about the if-else switch statements, and you should continue reading the Eloquent JavaScript chapter 2. I also suggest that you continue to read the You Don't Know JavaScript, the YDK, whatever, whatever. All right. If you don't have these books, please request for them. All right. And then you'll be creating a student grade checker. All right, that will be your assignment. Okay. So if you get confused in any of this, please reach out to us so that we can actually help out too. Okay. All right. So what is control flow? Control flow is the order in which your code executes. Like I have said before, the normal order is that it will execute from top to bottom. So if you're writing your lines of code, the statements that you're writing, they'll be executing one after the other. But for some reasons, you might want to control the flow of the execution of your code. All right. Yeah, maybe for some conditions, you might want to do something else. Okay. So by default, code runs top to bottom, but sometimes you want to make decisions. Like if it is raining, you want to take an umbrella, else you can go out freely. Now, if we can liken this thing to the normal day life that we live, of course, if you want to go out, you first of all take a look at, you will first of all check how cloudy the weather is. If it is cloudy, you might be like, oh, I need to take an umbrella. Or if it is already raining, you need to take an umbrella. You cannot just go out like that without an umbrella. So that's a condition that you have checked. The normal flow is normally you don't need to check anything. You just go out just like that. If there was nothing like rain, all right, you could just go out without checking anything. But because there is possibility of it might rain, and if it rains, you will not feel good because you'll be wet. Okay. So what you do is you can check, oh, does it look like it's going to rain? Or you can check the weather forecast to see if it's going to rain. If it's going to rain, you can actually take an umbrella. Or else, if it's not going to rain, the weather is very, very okay, you can just go out. So these are the kind of conditions you also check, the kind of decisions you also make when you're writing your code. So you need to check them. So that's what control flow helps you do. It controls what runs, when, and why. So you will be in charge to say, okay, this piece of code was wrong when something like this happens, and this is the reason. So if it is raining, I will have to go out with an umbrella. If not, else I don't go out with an umbrella. So you'll be in charge, you'll be in control. So this gives you that control to you control what runs, when it runs, and why. So the first control statement we'll take a look at is the if statement. If something happens, if a condition is true or false, based on the evaluation of a condition, if it is true, I will do something like this. If it is not true, I will do something like this. So based on a condition, okay, so the purpose of the if statement is that it will run a block of code only if a certain condition is true. So with the if statement gives you the ability to run a piece of code only when a particular condition is true. If a particular condition is not true, that means you don't run that piece of code. So this is the purpose of the if statement. All right, it is as simple as if. Now you use the keyword if, then in bracket you put the condition. This condition must evaluate to a Boolean value. It can be an expression, it can be a very long expression, it can just be a simple variable that evaluates to a Boolean. All right, it can even be true or false. Okay, so this condition has to be evaluated. If the condition is true, the code runs if the condition is true. But if the condition is not true, it doesn't run. So let's go and do something here. Okay. I think I'll call this one control.js. All right. So now I have a piece of code. Let's say I have age. and I say age is equal to 65. Okay, so I can write the condition. Okay, I want to write a piece. Okay, let's say I want to say console.log, console.log, you are eligible, eligible. Sorry if my eligible is not spelled correctly. You are eligible to vote. You see now, whether I like it or not, all right, the normal thing is that execution of this program will run from top to bottom. So this will be executed, the second one will be executed. So now I don't have any, I did not put any control statement here. So if I run this code now, if I say node control dot, just control would be okay. It will run you are eligible to vote. Now, what if the age is less than 18, 15 years old? Would this code still run? Yes, it will still run because we did not make any condition there. So what if we want to say, okay, we want to run this piece of code only, we want to run this piece of code only if age is greater than or equal to 18. Remember the comparison operator we did the other time? That is when I want to run this code. You can see, normally this code has been running because we did not put any control. We did not put any control here. But right now, since we have put this control now, let's try and see if it will run. Of course, it will not run. It will not run because this age, this is a Boolean expression. All right, it will evaluate to true or false. All right, it will evaluate to true or false. So I can take this thing out here and I can just put it in another variable and I'll say can vote. All right, can vote would be um the result of this expression evaluation. So I can now say in here, I can say can vote. So now the condition I have here is that can vote is a Boolean value. So it's either true or false. So now I can go on and console.log the value of this can vote. So this can vote. Okay. Now, if the can vote is true, then this piece of code would run. If the can vote is false, this piece of code will not run. So let's go and try again. You see, the can vote is false. You see, the can vote is false. That is why because this can vote is false, this condition will not run. But if the can vote is, let's assume now that we said that the age of this person is 25. All right, then can vote is not going to be true. Now, since can vote is true, this code will run. So we are checking if this condition is not true, this code will not run. So if I go on now and run this code again, you can see can vote is true and that piece of code has run. Okay, so this is the if statement. Something has to be true. This expression has to evaluate to true or false. It has to evaluate to true for this to run. If not, that piece of code will not run. So you might have a piece of code in your program that you don't just want it to run normally, you want it to run if a particular thing is true. That is where you can use the if statement, okay? So we have shown you an example already, and this is how it works, okay? So if age is 18 or more, it will log the message. If not, it will not log the message. So that is the if statement. Right? We also have the else part, the else statement. Now, what will happen? Sometimes you might want to say, okay, if this person is not eligible to vote, we can do something else. So if this condition is not true, we can do something else. If the condition is true, we will do the intended thing. But if the condition is not true, we'll do another thing. Do you understand? Okay. So that is where we'll now use the else statement. So how does it work? The purpose is to run a block of code if the condition in the if statement is false. So this would only run when the condition in the if statement is false. So the syntax is after the if statement, you will now have the else statement. It also has its own code, block of code to run. Okay. All right. So Now let's go and do some examples. So we can go back to our example and we say, if can vote is true, we do this. Else we'll say you're not eligible to vote. I'll just copy this and change it here. Oops. Okay. So I'll say you're not eligible to vote. So of course, this is going to be true because age is greater than or equal to 18. But let's take the age back to 15. So if we run this code, I'm going to clear my terminal. All right. So if I run node control again, you can see it is false. Can vote is false, and that is said you are not eligible to vote. So this okay. I don't know. Can I debug? Okay, let me put a breakpoint here. I don't know. I reinstalled this Visual Studio Code, so I don't know if okay, I'll debug with Node.js. All right. Okay, so now I have put a, all right, it has already run. Okay, so I want to show you something. I want to illustrate something. So I'll start debugging. Okay, so now, all right, so I am debugging this code now. So let's take it step by step. So our program has stopped execution. It has run 1, 2, 3. This statement has run, and that's why we have false here. Okay, now, but let's come here. We'll check the value of can vote is what? False. Do you understand? So here it has come here now. It is in the if statement. Because of this is false, it will jump to the else statement. So if I click on step over, if I click on step into, you can see it just jumped from if to else because this condition is false. It just jumped because it checked it. Oh, this is false. I will not run this code. It just went to the next one. So you can see how the execution was stopped, and you can see, and now we are here. So now if I go on and change this thing to 25, and then I'll stop execution and let me run again. Let me run it. Let me debug and start debugging again. All right. Now you can see our age is 25. Our can vote here. Look at it. Let me expand this. You can see the variable we have here. The can vote here is true now. So because it's true, if I click on step into again, it will go down here. And after it will just close the, you can see because can vote now is true. That is why it now came in here. So you can see how it goes step by step. So anyways, I hope I did not confuse you with what I did there. If you don't understand debugging, no problem. We'll talk about it later on, okay? We'll talk about it later on. All right. So this is how the if-else statement works. All right. So you can see we already have this and we have seen the example already. So we also have the else-if statement. So let's assume you are not just checking one condition. Oh, what if it is raining? If it is raining, I will go with an umbrella. Okay, if it is raining lightly, all right, if the rain is light, I might not need to go with an umbrella, or maybe I can just go with a raincoat. But if it is raining heavily, I might just go with an umbrella. And if it is raining too heavily, I wouldn't go out at all. So the else if statement gives us the opportunity to check for more conditions, not just for only one condition. So if you have multiple conditions that you want to check, you can use the else if statement. So it lets you test multiple conditions in a chain. You don't just want to check just one condition. So the syntax is if the condition the first condition will go in the if statement. The second one will now go in the else if. So if you have more than if you have more than two conditions, you can have another else if statement here. So now let's just go to our example that we already have here. So let's assume we are checking if the person can vote. Okay. Okay, so maybe I will just need to, I will say if age is greater than or equal to 18, all right, we do. So I'm going to take away this, I'll take away this guy. All right. So now I want to check another condition, not just if age is equal to 18. I want to check another condition. So I will come here after this curly brace of the if, before the else starts. I will say else if else if this condition is also true, I will do something like this. You can see how I'm doing it. I can say if age is um if age is greater than or equal to 16. No, I will say if age is um okay, if age is greater than or equal to 16, then I would do what? I would I will say console.log. You will be eligible to vote in 2 years. You will be eligible to vote in if it is if it is you'll be eligible to vote in 1 or 2 years. All right. So this, I'm just giving an example here. Okay. So you can see I can have another if else statement. I can have another if else statement. Okay. So let me just format this. I can have another if else statement and say if it is greater than or equal to let's say 13, then you will be eligible to vote in this is one. You'll be eligible to vote in um 3 years to come. All right. All right. So now you can see I have multiple conditions. So this is the first condition. This is the second condition. This is the third condition. So let's assume that this person is 12 years old. So if I run this code now, you're not eligible to vote because none of these conditions, the first condition, the second condition, the third condition, none of them matched. All right, and that is why it now went straight to the else statement because none of these conditions matched. Because look at the conditions now, age has to be greater than or equal to 13. So if I say it is equal to 13, okay, another piece of code will run. You will be eligible to vote in 3 years. So you can see we are testing multiple conditions. So that is where we use the else if statement. Okay, so you can practice with this, work around with it, do multiple conditions. All right, practice it. Okay, so now if your score is 90, is greater than or equal to 90, console.log grade A. If it is greater than or equal to 80, console.log grade B. You understand? So we are checking multiple conditions here to grade the student. Do you understand? So this is an example. All right, this is an example. Okay, so I promised you that I was going to show you the ternary operator. Yes. So before I go to the switch statement, let me now show you the ternary operator. Now, if you have if you just have if you just have a condition to check, all right. So pardon me, I'm going to remove the else if statements conditions we have here. So if you have something like this, you only have two conditions. Now you can see that this is a lot of code, but we can do something like this, what we call the ternary operator. I can say age, which is the condition, age greater than or equal to 18. All right, what do you want to do? I will first of all put the condition, then after the condition, I'll put a question mark. Now, anything that follows this question mark is what I want, is the code that I want it to execute. So I can just pick this one. That is the code I want it to execute if this is true. Then else, please remove the semicolon. Else, you put a colon like this. So this is the syntax of a ternary operator. Else, what do you want to do? I want to do the else part. So you can see that in just one line of code, we've been able to do the same thing. Do you understand? So if I comment this guy out now, we are going to have the same thing. But please only use the ternary operator if you only have one condition to test. Don't do nested code in here. Don't do that. Only use the ternary operator. All right. Only use ternary operator if you only have one condition to check. If you have multiple conditions to check, go for the if else if statement. All right. So if I run this code now, you will see that we'll get you are not eligible to vote because age here is not because this condition didn't come as true. So since it is not true, it will skip anything after the question mark and now run the code after the colon. But if this is true, now if I change this thing now to be something like 19, that means this expression will be true. That means this piece of code that follows the question mark will run. So if I go now, you see that you are eligible to vote will run. So if this statement is true, if this expression is evaluates to true, anything that follows the question mark would run, else anything that follows the colon will run. So make sure that you follow this syntax very well. All right, it can be very handy. You can use this thing to assign values. If this thing is true, you do this. If this is not true, you do this. So, well, make sure that when you're using the ternary operator, always make sure that is a one-line code. Don't come here and write multiple lines of code here. Don't do that. All right, it will be messy. So this is only used for if you have a one-line code that you want to run and you're only checking one condition. All right. So now let's go to the switch statement. Now the switch statement is used to test multiple values of the same variable. Just like now, we were testing, if you have a particular, you have, let's say, you are testing a value of a particular variable, but that variable could have multiple values. You use the switch statement. It's different from having multiple conditions. With the else if statement, sometimes people mistake these things. Where they are supposed to use the else if statement, they will use the switch statement. All right. But there's also a way you can use the switch statement in place of the else if statement. But you have to be a professional in that. You have to do it very, very correct. Okay. So now, but basically, you use the switch statement if you have a variable, all right, that could have multiple values. Just like now, today can be Monday. A day can be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So a day can have different values of 7. All right. Somebody's grade can be greater than 90, greater than 80, but not greater than not equal to 90. It can have multiple values. All right. So that is where you use the switch statement. So it's a clever alternative to multiple else blocks when testing one variable against many options. It's an alternative when testing one variable against many options. Just like I just told you now, the day of the week can be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you have 7 options you can test against. So this is the syntax. You have your switch, the keyword switch. So inside of this switch, you put your expression. This expression can be a variable that the system or the interpreter will be evaluating against, will be checking. So you have case 1. If this expression evaluates to this value 1, then this code block will run. Then you break out. You can have multiple cases. Then the default is if none of these values evaluates, if this expression evaluates to none of these values I have in the cases, you run the default. So let's go and do some. We can even look at this. Okay, now let's see an example here. We have day, and this day is Wednesday. So we want to check. Let's assume that we are getting this value from a user. We don't know what the user is going to enter. We don't know whether the user will enter Wednesday, Thursday. We don't really know. But here we are just hard coding it. Let's assume we are just checking. We don't know what the user is going to enter. So we are now switching on this day variable. This is a variable and has the value of Wednesday. So that's what the user will give us. So we'll check case. When the case is Monday, that's when the value is, when this day evaluates to Monday, then we'll run this block of code. All right. We say start of the week. We break out. You have to break out. All right. When it is Wednesday, we say midweek day. All right, we break out. When it is Friday, we say weekend starts soon. We break out. Or by default, in case the user gave us something like Tuesday or Thursday, and you can see we didn't have any Tuesday, Thursday in these our cases, then it will now go to the default, just another day. Do you understand? So the default would always run if none of our cases matches the value of the day. That's the variable we are evaluating. Do you understand? So unless if you want to catch all of them, you can actually catch all of them. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You understand? So, but here we are just interested in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Cases of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's not every case that we are interested to investigate. This time around, we were just interested in investigating a case like if this Monday, if this Wednesday, this Friday. So let's go and do some coding. So, sorry, I'm going to take everything out here. So I could say, let's assume that I have a constant and it is day. The variable I'm saving Wednesday. Wednesday. All right. So, and I want to switch on it. I want to switch on this day. All right. So you can, this is the syntax. So you say switch, parenthesis. Now the day, the expression or the value or the variable you want to evaluate. So we want to investigate. Let's assume that this day is a criminal. All right. We want to investigate this day. If this day is Monday, so when the case, if the case is Monday. But remember, this is a string. So the value also has to be a string. If it is a number, the value will be a number. So you say case, then the value you're trying to see, if it is Monday, we will catch this criminal. And when we catch this criminal, we put a colon. And then for me, I like putting this block like this. I like doing this myself, but you don't have to put that block of code there. But for me, I like doing it. I can just say console.log start of the week. Then you can break, oops, sorry. Then you can break out. Okay. I can also go again. I can say case, when the case is Wednesday. When the case is Wednesday, I will say midweek. I'll say midweek. And when the case is Friday, I will say, thank God it's Friday. Let's go and party. Let's go to the club. All right. So this is what I have here. Then if by default, oh, we were not able to catch this criminal, what are we going to do? We'll let the criminal go. So we are trying to investigate this criminal. If this criminal committed a crime and is Monday, then we catch it. If it is Wednesday, we also catch it. If it is Friday, we also catch. But if it is not none of these, that means wow, this guy is not a criminal. We'll go with the default. And what are we going to do? We'll just say console.log, just another day, just another boring day. You understand? Something like that. Oh, sorry, I have to put the colon. I have to put the colon. So I have to. So you see this is the syntax. This is the syntax. So now what do you guess? Since this criminal is Wednesday, that means we are going to catch it here. We have multiple charges against this criminal. All right. So we have a case of Monday, we have a case of Wednesday, we have a case of Friday. And if this criminal falls into any of this, that means we can jail this criminal if any of them is true. So, but I'll go to my terminal and I will clear. All right. So I'm not going to run this again. Of course, I will save my file. Then I will run it. Oh, sorry, I did clear. All right. It's a midweek because it's Wednesday. What if I change this thing to Tuesday? That means we did not catch this criminal. The criminal did not commit the charge against it. It will say just another day. So none of this case worked because the value of this particular guy is not Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, and the default code will run. So if you have a default, if you want, when any of those values are not true, all right, if you don't catch any of those values, you can actually get, okay, you will have a default. So this default would run if none of these guys it was the value. All right. So that is it for the switch statement. So look at the syntax. Play around with it, work around with it. Okay. It is by practice that you make mistakes. You can see when I was even doing this default, I forgot to put the colon and I made the mistake. So, but Visual Studio Code will tell you. All right. So do this thing, practice it. All right. Practice it. So important notes. Use the equality sign, the strictly equality sign in JavaScript anytime when you're doing your comparison. Always use it. Always use the break in switch to stop checking other cases. There's something we call for true. All right, there's something we call for true. Look at what is going to happen. If I did not put this break, let me comment this break out. If I did not put this break and for some reason this value is Wednesday, so look at it. We caught it on Wednesday, but guess what is going to happen? Guess what is going to happen? There's something we call for true. So I'm just let me run it and show you. If I run this thing now, it will say let's go to club. It will run the midweek and also run let's go to club. Why? Because of course we are not looking for Friday, but Friday had to happen. That because there is a for true. You would always, if you don't want these kind of things to happen, put a break. So once it runs this code, it will not break out of the switch statement, the switch statement. In this case, it did not break out of it. Since it did not break out of it, it ran this code and then fell through to this other guy and then ran this other code. It could be by design, that's what you want, but if it's not what you want, you have to put a break. But if by design it could be what you want, you could just want, okay, if it is Wednesday, I want to run both codes and it will work. So understand that there's something we call for true, and you have to put breaks, put this break keyword after by the end of the block of code that you're writing here. Okay, so if I take this, if I comment this thing now, you see there will be no for true anymore. I'll just run it and it will only be on Wednesday midweek. Okay, all right. So conditions inside if must result in true or false. So your conditions inside your if statement must result true or false. Then real world scenario, you can have temperature 32. If temperature is greater than 30, what do we want to do? Console.log, it is hot, it's a hot day. If it is greater than or equal to 20, then the weather is pleasant. So you can see we are checking for multiple conditions here. So that's why we're using the else if statement. All right. So when to use what? Use the if statement to run code only if a single condition is true. Only you're checking for just one condition. Use the if else statement to choose between two paths. So if it is true, I do this. If it is not true, I do this. Use the if else statement to handle multiple complex conditions. When you have multiple conditions to check, and then use the switch statement when you want to check one variable against many fixed values efficiently. Okay, so thank you very much. If you have any question, please reach out, drop the question in the WhatsApp group. Make sure you read the books that we recommend. All right, they will expand your knowledge. And while you're reading these books, if you tend to have any difficulty in understanding something, please drop your question in the WhatsApp group or you reach out to us. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next class.